Hey, Coach John here again, and what I want to share with you about my three-step shred system is exactly how we are supposed to be doing cardio and the common mistakes you're probably making, just like a lot of other guys I know that are not really seeing the gains they want to and aren't really dropping the body fat that they're trying to either, even with a good diet and a great training program. So first and foremost, I want to talk about the three types of cardio, how you should prioritize them, because a lot of times we get this backwards from the start. So if we look at the time you have in your week, first of all, metabolic is going to give you the best return on your time invested. So 20-30 minutes of metabolic cardio is going to simulate far more fat loss and preserve a lot more muscle than you're going to find with steady state. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But the first thing I want to point out is a lot of us are pressed for time. So how do we invest that time? Well, if our strength training program isn't taking is already taking 3 hours, maybe 5 hours tops, depending on your split, your next, ideally 3 to 5 hours in your week should be spent doing metabolic cardio, especially if your goal is fat loss, right? Strength training should take up those first 1, 2, 3, if not 4 hours of your week, okay? Invest in exercise, of course. Here, your next 5 to 7 hours, that's where I place it. Okay, put your HIIT in there, and once again, we're doing things that simulate more fat loss and preserve muscle. If you have more time than that, probably the most intelligent thing to do with steady state is to put it last in your order of priorities. That's when you got a heck of a lot of time. Your nutrients and your macronutrients are on point. You're getting great sleep. You're getting your strength training in, because realistically, you can get a great result with everything you see here up. Now, the reason why these two work far better than traditional steady state runs is EPOC. Sorry for my whiteboard here. Or better known as excess post-oxygen consumption. What that means to you is, I'm going to give you a very simple example. If this is our workout, okay? Here's intensity. This is more intense. This is less intense, obviously. What happens as far as what's burning when, check this out. So if this is like a low intensity, like sleep, right? This is like a sprint, maximal intensity. What happens is the harder we work, the less fat actually contributes. So fat starts off as a higher percentage, right? There's a percentage of contribution, and goes down the harder we work. Now, glycogen or stored carbohydrates contribute more and more and more the harder we work. So just looking at that, it almost makes sense to just do things that burn a high amount of fat. But the drawback is they don't preserve muscle tissue, which is really what keeps our metabolism up. And also, we're not burning as many calories, right? So here's a kicker. It's not about what happens during this workout, right? It's what happens after it's all said and done. And that is EPOC. That's when the excess post-oxygen consumption kicks in, okay? So I want to give you 2 examples. So it's like a 1-2 punch with your strength training and your cardio. And when we say cardio, we mean these guys, the ones that give us the best return for our time invested. So what you're going to find is that your strength training affects your overall metabolism. So let's say that your metabolism is 2,000 calories per day, depending, based on your height, your weight, the amount of muscle tissue you have in your body versus fat tissue. So, what we're going to go from there is say, over time, we put on more muscle, body with all else remaining equal, weight increasing, we're going to find this increases. So, in 4 to 6 weeks, this might be burning at 2,200. That's a day-to-day, base amount. That's like if you have a bank account, that's the amount of cash you have sitting in there in your savings account, okay? Now, EPOC is sort of like the interest you get, okay? The investment is coming from our exercise, but, you know, in this case, the cardio, right? So that return we're getting, that small percentage, that's the EPOC. The EPOC is going to take place anywhere they found from 24 to 72 hours after your workout, okay? You're going to burn a couple hundred extra calories every time you stimulate EPOC. Let's say plus 100 to plus 300. Pretty cool, right? So you burn calories during your workout, you burn some fat, mainly carbs, right? You hold on to your muscle so this stays up, right? And on top of that, you're burning an extra 100 to 300 calories. That doesn't sound like a lot, right? But remember, this is when we're just at rest. This is when you're hanging out, when you're sleeping, when you're not working out. So it's a sweet and awesome return on our time invested. But also, you got to remember, odds are you're not going to work out every 6 hours. So if let's say you burn an extra 100, maybe 200 calories in the next 12 to 24 hours before your next workout, right? Where are those calories coming from? Well, since you're not running all day for your full-time job, you're probably at a lower intensity, a rested state. Heart rate's very low, just maintenance, you're doing office work. Remember, low intensities, fat primarily contributes. So the cool thing is these extra calories that we get from EPOC, they're coming from body fat, and more directly from body fat than if you were doing steady state run, which has a balance of fat, carbs, and protein contribution, which is not what you want. Problem with protein contribution, this goes down, right? And that is exactly why we want to prioritize this type of cardio as our primary driver to supplement our strength training. So go ahead and use this in your workouts. In our system, I'll actually break down very specific protocol on how to do this. But in the meantime, go ahead and test out some metabolic workouts, some higher intensity interval training, and get started today.